Thanks for the opportunity for this interview. The Korean politics has progressed since the Korean War history of Korean democracy. There's ups and downs, but overall I think a significant amount of progress has been made. However, there are many ways forward. One of the things that we need to do better and get better is to create a sense of diversity within the National Assembly. So my party, Transition Korea, even though we're very small and new, try to set a footstone, try to start a new venture for very diverse and mosaic type of Korean politics. I've been in this National Assembly for 2 months by now, meeting a lot of colleagues in the National Assembly and media folks, as well as general public and citizens and voters. And I'm confident that many people consent with me that Korean politics will be much better off if we have a very diverse and different political parties that represent different voices. So this is one of the things that we will contribute. The second part that we would like to contribute to the Korean politics is the practicality, or practical aspect of Korean politics. I believe Korean politics has been very dominantly influenced by ideology. The fact that our Korean peninsula has been divided into two parts has also contributed to this ideology-based politics. However, many citizens and voters in Korea don't think this ideology is useful to make their everyday life better. So instead of ideology fighting, our party and myself would like to change the Korean politics into more solution-finding politics, to make everyday life of every average citizen one step better at a time. I'm not saying that ideology should disappear immediately. Sometimes ideology is important and philosophical debate is core element of politics. However, at this time, we really need to bring more practical aspect into Korean politics. And Transition Party is all about practical solutions. We are very proud to call ourselves solution finder or solution designer. So for each policy issues, we will be very free to go into left-wing solution all the way to right-wing solution to make sure that we find the right tools and solutions to solve the problem. So we will contribute in two ways in sum. First, we will try to transform the polarized two-party systems into multi-party system to reflect diversified views of citizens. The second is we'll try to change Korean politics from ideology-based fighting into solution-finding debate. Korea is very proud of our democracy. Overall, I think Korea is leading in terms of democracy in the whole Asia. It comes with price, and many citizens are well aware of that. You asked two questions. In what aspect Korean democracy is doing well? I think we managed to create a reality and consensus that the owner of this land and this country is citizen. The power comes from citizen. We don't have any more kings or queens. Everyone can voice their views and opinions, and even though president is elected by our vote, if he or she does not reflect our priorities and opinion, we can impeach them, and we did. And we did it without relying on violence. I think that is one of the most remarkable aspects of Korean democracy. And it is more remarkable if you consider that this peninsula has had thousands of years of kingdom with very strong sense of hierarchy. And it's not that this place has no governance regime. We have a very strong legacy of kingdom and very vertical and hierarchical communication as well as social system. And through the Korean War, through a number of historical events, I think our people have managed to transform that into very democratic and to some extent parallel system of power distribution. However, there's always shortcomings. The points I made just now is also part of our downside of Korean politics. We still think politics can probably solve everything. And when we find something not working, we always call up in politics. I don't believe that. There are certain things that economy can solve themselves. There are certain things education should solve themselves. There are certain things our community collectively should solve. But we tend to think if anything goes wrong, it's the problem of politics. And politicians should be blamed for. So we really have to make a good balance. And I think Korean citizens and politics realize this demand and step by step, gradually are making that adjustment. Platform politics is a rather new term to Korean politics as well as citizens. I think there's nothing new, but the aspect we want to emphasize more is that the party, which is very important institution to run politics, traditionally has been dominated by very few top leaders, if not one. And if that person decides, the party just follows or endorse the policies and the political actions. I don't think that model fits well with Korean society today. We try to emphasize more the bottom-up aspects of communication and decision making. If we call the today or past politics is top-down, from top leader all the way down to the bottom, platform party is bottom-up. So I am member of the transition party. I do not decide our party's policy myself alone. I rely on the opinions and voices. Yesterday, I was one of the 11 members of parliament asking questions to the cabinet members of the government. Everybody prepared very well for that opportunity. One of my highlights was to ask questions to our constituency. I was selected as one of the questioners for this session. What questions do you want to ask? Do you want me to ask to Vice Prime Minister and Prime Minister in terms of economic policies? And I received a lot of feedbacks, and I prepare my questions based on that. And this is one of the examples. You might think that this is normal, but it is actually not normal in Korean politics. Once members are elected, it's pretty much detached from the constituency when it comes to policy. But platform party links constantly and regularly, and thanks to the technology, it's possible now without much cost. Offline meeting comes with premium these days because of COVID-19, but online meeting is more easy to express your opinions and get feedback. So we're now in good touch with international partners such as Podemos and five-star parties in Italy to learn their experiences and lessons and to reflect them in designing our platform parties. We are going to officially launch this platform party model and system in the fall of 2020. So we will launch it, and I hope that everybody will get excited about it. This is very important questions, and it's a serious threat for very healthy and positive digital democracy. There are two things we need to do together. First, the leaders should not trigger or instigate popularism through digital democracy. It's very tempting, and because of digital devices' nature, you can pretty much choose what you want to hear, which is very different from all-day media. When there's only few media choices, you just have to listen to what they're saying. And some part you like, some part you don't like. These days, because there are thousands of media out there, you can avoid listening what you don't want to. And you can just select and choose what you want to hear. Which means for every member of National Assembly or politicians, there's a group of people who support you no matter what. And you are now fantasized that whatever I say, everybody will like it. Whatever mistake I make, people will accept it, which is not true. So I think as a member of National Assembly or politicians, you should be always vigilant and mindful that the general public out there is not the same as your close supporters. The second, we need some systematic, even technical guidelines. It is very recommendable and acceptable that you disagree with certain opinions, but it is not acceptable to do so with personal attack and privacy violation. And there are certain lines you cannot cross to be member of a mature democratic system. And if you cross the line, you will have to pay the price. And this is the rule of the game. Everybody has to accept. And I think our society has to be a little bit more strong and a little tough to discipline these guidelines so that the conversations inside digital device, digital world is more productive and forward-looking instead of finger-pointing and criticizing each other in a very negative, non-productive way. Politics is nothing but life itself. As long as you decide to live in a society instead of going to the mountain or island to live yourself, politics is something that you cannot get away. However, the way politics influence or interact with society has changed dramatically. In old days, a few very brave heroes go to the politics and sacrifice their lives entirely and live for their countries. It's like autography, a biography, right? It's a hero story equals politics. I don't think it should be the case anymore. Politics is for everyday life. People have their jobs and professions, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and through their lives, they find certain issues, certain things must change. And they really want to change that thing for themselves, for their next generation, and for the society. That's the motivation for joining politics. And then you can come to political world and do your job and changing that, changing this. And then if you are done with your mission, you go back to your own normal life and carry on your normal life. So I really think politics and non-political society should be more interactive. These days, in old days, even though, and today including, even though the degree has gone down, people tend to think politicians are special species. They're very special. And normal people and politicians are different people. I don't think that is the case anymore. I'm very normal. I was average citizens until a few months back. Now I'm a member of National Assembly. when my term is over, I will go back and resume my life as normal citizens. I have no qualm, I have no problem with it. And because of that, I denied being called 의원님, which is very respectful word in this National Assembly. Every staff of my office call me 정훈. And I insist the media folks and media people describe me as 정훈, because this is the name I will carry even after my term is over. And member of National Assembly, even though this is honorable term, it's temporary. So I really like to encourage young generation to think about politics. If you find something not satisfactory to your view, and come to the politics and do your best to change this and change that. And I think this will give you a sense of satisfaction. And you go back to where you came from and then carry on your life. In that way, the politics become more dynamic and more easy entry, therefore more responsive to the normal citizens. And I think this kind of practical aspects of politics is what other countries in Asia might aspire to. Ideology-based, hero-based politics is done. Young generation in almost all countries are not really interested in that kind of story. So I hope that every democracy aspiring countries will make sure that the politics is open for everybody, including young generation, and get the best out of democracy. Thank you.